I'll try to keep this as short as I possibly can make it, but I'm talking to all South Africans. Any South African that will be watching this, it's a bit of a rant, but then at the same time, there's, I think, lessons that can be taken from this being my thoughts. So when I was between 15 and 19, I had known a lot about apartheid and the history of the country. Unfortunately, South Africa's history or legacy comes from that apartheid, right? And I hadn't had a lot of experience with white people. So I, unfortunately, at that time believed that most, if not all, white people are racist. And the funny thing is that years before that, from the time I was probably 14, the only kind of racial discrimination, if I may put it, that I had experienced, the first one was from an Indian person, the second one, Indian again, the third one, Indian again, and then around the fourth one was an Arab, who called them Indian as well, but Arab person. There was, like, I have to make that distinction, that the first three were actually Indian people, and then the fourth was an Arab person. But the funny thing is that I never actually viewed Indian people as racist towards me, or Indian people having a potential to be racist. And I would later learn that I was very wrong about that, as I experienced another racial discrimination again, and this one was actually vocal, and it was an Indian again. The sixth time I felt or experienced what seemed like or felt like racism towards me was from a Jewish person, and then another one was from an actual Jewish person who has been in Germany during World War II, and also had a tattoo of the Auschwitz tattoo, the numbers. And from that time, I started looking at people very differently. So with the last Jewish person that I'm talking about, we were with her grandson, whom was a hip-hop musician. He invited us into their home, and he told us, like, guys, listen, my grandmother is a white Jewish lady from Germany, and unfortunately she is purely racist. I am telling you this now so that you know when you enter the home, if you get bad looks or if you hear murmuring sounds about you, I've told you. But as you all already know, that I'm not that person, and I cannot change this old person, right? And we didn't have a problem with that. And I still didn't, at that time, view Jewish people as racist. But for some odd reason, I viewed white people as racist. And in my opinion, as a black person, when I look at a Jewish guy, Jewish lady, I'm thinking white. But I'm not really talking about Jewish or Indian or people like that. Like, I'm just talking about people in general, and myself, with this belief that all white people are racist. Although before the two Jewish incidents, I had not experienced actual racism from another white person. But my perspective started changing very much as I matured. And as I matured even more, things online progressively got more liberal. And the thing about liberal people is that they want you to believe that everyone is racist. I think it's a division tactic. Liberal people want you to believe that white people are racist. They want you to believe that all white people are the devil. And as proud as I am of being a black person, excuse the light has changed a bit. As proud as I am being a black person, at that time they could have convinced me, but with my experiences as they started happening, I started seeing that no, I actually cannot judge a whole race of people based off somebody else's belief, and of course based off the past, although the past may still be affecting me somehow as a black person, or many black people who are dispositioned here in South Africa. But my personal experience with people is very different. So I say that the most experiences that I have had that seemed like racism was from Indian people, but my most memorable and my most memorable memories, the most memorable of my times was going to Cape Town and when I was a full-time photographer, starting to make a lot of money, and that was through two Indian people. And at this time, I had started thinking, well, Indians might just be racist, but that's not true. It was those few people who expressed that racism towards me in their own way. And most of the other Indian people that I knew were great, amazing people. They exposed me to things I didn't think possible for a person with my background. They exposed me to places and kinds of finances that I didn't think I can, access. And I did this through them. And I'm very grateful for that. Although some of the relationships, I fucked them up because I was not yet that mature at that time. It's a bit long ago. And as time progressed, as me being a photographer, I started getting more and more involved with white people. And I want to talk about white people for a little while now. And this is where the shift started happening. I remember this one lady, Johanna van Niekerk, who had invited me for a wedding shoot in Mabopane, Pretoria. And she didn't need to invite me to that wedding, but she invited me so that I could build a portfolio for my wedding photography. She invited me so that I could also make a little bit of money. And the camera I was shooting with that day was not so great. And it was a DSLR, but a small DSLR. And she offered to give me a camera, a mirrorless camera. Give me a camera. Give. Not sell it or anything of that sort. She gave me the camera, which I eventually, unfortunately, lost during a hijack. And the hijack was by a black person. I got shot in that incident. I took 3 bullets from a black person. I am going to emphasize, hopefully YouTube doesn't strike me for this, but I have to say these things. My perspective of people had started changing. I don't judge black people because they are black. I don't judge Indians because they are Indians. And with white people, the shift started happening. Fast forward from Johan van Niekerk, I met Johan. I'm forgetting his surname, but Afrikaner guy as well, from Pretoria, Faltekrace. And I was a photographer for his company. And although the pay was not that great, there was no discrimination in how he paid me, a young black guy, and the next Afrikaner guy who was 4 times my age. The pay was actually the same. There was no discrimination there. In fact, they thought that there is discrimination there because the older white guys would come to me secretly and ask me, how much are you getting paid for this? And I would tell them how much I'm getting paid. And in fact, I would notice that sometimes I'm getting paid more than these white guys because they paid based on the equipment that you come with on that day of the shoot, right? And Johan's wife is a black woman, and there's a time when we went to Pietermaritzburg, and traveling from Soweto to Pietermaritzburg or from Soweto to Faldekrace, then Pietermaritzburg would have been very uncomfortable traveling because I was using public transport. So he invited me into his home. I slept over at his home. I had a good dinner. I was very warm that night. They didn't have an extra bedroom, but they had a very comfortable big bed-like couch. He didn't have to invite me to that, and had there been an extra room, he told me, it's like, you would have gotten that, but this is what we can offer you. And I was very much happy with that. And speaking of Johan again, there was a time we were in Potchefstroom shooting athletic events, and on that day, for some reason, he decided that he was going to put me in the software side of things where we process the pictures and print them out. And the reason he had done that is because he believed in me. He said that, I believe in you, you are quite smart. I didn't get enough training, which was both our mistake. I should have told him, like, can I get at least a day of training? But he believed in me so much that he thought I could do it, learning it after 15-30 minutes. So in Potchefstroom, the first 2 hours were good. Into 30 minutes into the 3rd hour, I started fucking up and mixing up pictures, mislabeling things and everything like that, right? So at the end of the event, people start collecting their pictures, and the queue is getting longer and longer and longer and longer. And the reason it's getting longer is because I'm fucking up. I'm messing up how I label the pictures, the groupings, and that made the job very difficult. And in fact, I lost him money on that day. I can admit to that. But something surprised me that he did. One guy came And Afrikaans, he said, he doesn't understand. He's talking to me. He doesn't understand why I'm here because I'm incompetent. Clearly, I don't know what I am doing. And I said nothing because, well, true. I don't really know what I am doing and I don't have to tell him that. So I just kept quiet. But Johan's reaction really surprised me. When I tell you that man roared, he roared at this guy in Afrikaans, and the queue was very long that anyone else who would come make such a comment to me, it was not going to be tolerated, to the point that he said, if you don't want us to find these pictures, you can walk away. He switched from Afrikaans to English just in case somebody doesn't understand Afrikaans, that you are not going to come here and disrespect my employee and my business. We don't need your business if you are going to be disrespectful. And I noticed that he was defending a young black guy. There's no need. Defending a young black guy as an Afrikaner man to another Afrikaner man. Roared at him. And at the end of the event, he took me to the side. For 15 minutes, I got a good beating of a lecture of how much I lost him money on that day, how much he was disappointed. And I took it. And as much as a bit of me was a bit angry at him for the lecture I was getting, I also remembered that a few hours ago, he defended me almost at the potential of losing the rest of the day business-wise. And you would think that after that incident, I wouldn't work with him again. No, I worked with him again a few more times until I decided that I wanted to move on to better opportunities. And the relationship was never, the bridge was never burned. Okay, I still talk to Johan to this day. This was 2018, 17, 18. Yeah, 2017, 18. I still talk to him. He taught me a lot about the photography business at that time. Fast forward to now, where now I have a lot more exposure to white people. And this is mainly because of where I go train, the gym, right? At first I was so uncomfortable because there were so many white people, a lot of white people. But my attitude changed within 30 minutes of me arriving there. When I arrived, the first person to help me, because I usually don't take orientation of the gym, I just tell myself I'll figure out the gym. But when I got to the gym, this was the biggest gym I've been to myself. So I got a tour of the gym from an old Afrikaner man. In fact, one of the people I talk to the most this day at the gym is him and his son, both Afrikaner. There's a gym piece of equipment that I've always wanted, but for some reason, I never bought it. It will be either it's too expensive at the time, or when I have the money, I just don't think of it. Hank bought it for me. I call him Hank the Tank. Afrikaner guy in his late 40s. I have an opportunity now. I don't know if I'm going to accept it because I don't know if I can afford it. To all expenses, travel to Botswana and watch a rally race. I love watching cars. I have an opportunity to go to Botswana and watch races. But because I can't afford it, and when I say I can't afford it, because all expenses are paid, I can't afford it because I have a business and it requires me to be here in order for the business to survive. I have an invitation, all expenses paid by a white guy. White guy. Afrikaner guy again. You would think that because we have a history of apartheid and the leaders of apartheid were Afrikaners, the most racist people would be Afrikaners. But the weird thing about Afrikaner people is that when they don't like you, it not being about your skin color, they don't hide it. When they don't like another person who may also be white, they don't hide it. And when they like you, you will know. Black people know this. This is something that I've always known from a very young age, that if an Afrikaner person likes you, they will not pretend. They will show you that they like you. They will show you. You know, and really in this video, what I want to say, there's so many other things that I'm not mentioning, by the way, on this video that have changed my perspective of Indian people, of Jewish people. Oh, by the way, my landlord currently is a Jewish person, and it's winter right now. I struggle paying rent sometimes. He is the most understanding landlord I've ever had. In fact, because winter is a bit slower, he decreased my rent a bit, And he told me, as long as you pay your rent, doesn't matter how you pay it, but as long as you do pay it for that month, we're cool. And we are cool. So, all this to say, can we fucking stop judging people by the color of their skin? Doesn't matter our history. Can we just stop judging people by the color of their skin? Let's judge them of the character. Their character. I cannot stress this enough. We have to, Rainbow Nation was a lie, right? But in order for us to move forward, we have to judge each other in a better way. I could say a lot more, but I think that is the message of the video. Let's have a conversation. Leave your comments, tell me what you think. Salute. See you in the next video.